Hi, and welcome to Tuesday Community Connections. You know, this Lenten season, when it started, seemed like it's going to be a long time. I mean, it's 7 weeks. But here we are now, just barely a week before Holy Week and 2 Sundays before Easter. It has gone very fast, and usually it does. So we come to Holy Week, though. I want to talk a little bit about worship during Holy Week. I mean, many people will come to worship on Palm Sunday or Passion Sunday as we know it. And you know, traditionally, who knows this year what will happen, but we will have a lot of people here and online on Easter because those are times that, whether or not you go to church other times, usually Easter and Christmas are the times that you show up and that you're there. But for many other people as well, it seems that to go to worship on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday and Easter Sunday when you were just at worship on the Sunday before is a little bit of overkill or something. And so people tend to not be as committed or dedicated to going to Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday worship. Now, I know I'm a pastor, and so this can be seen in that context that, well, of course, a pastor is going to tell us to go to worship. But I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, what difference it makes when you participate in worship on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, and how that can help your journey to Easter Sunday and make Easter Sunday even more powerful. Because I truly believe if you don't participate on Thursday and Friday, you really don't know the joy or the power of what Easter Sunday is all about. I mean, we all know the story, right? That Jesus was arrested. Well, before that, Jesus had Monday, Thursday, the Passover dinner that he shared with his disciples up in that upper room, and he took the bread right off the table and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them and said, "This is my body given for you." I'm sure the disciples at the time had no idea what in the world he was talking about, but did what he was said, and they each took some bread and ate it. And then he took the wine right off the table. It was what they used for their meal. And he blessed it and he gave it to them and he said, "All of you drink of it. This is the blood, my blood, which is given for you." And they shared that as well. And they must have wondered, what is this? But it changed the tone. It had to have changed the tone of that whole meal. The beginning of that walk to the cross, because shortly after that, when Jesus was in the garden praying, they came and arrested him, and that led up to Good Friday, and where he was in front of Judas, and where the crowds were yelling, "Crucify him," and ended up being condemned to death and hanging on the cross and dying. I mean, we all know that story. We know that's what happened. We know that Jesus died, but we also know on Easter Sunday that he rose again. And so it'd be easy to say, you know, I know what Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday are all about. I can just come on Easter and I'm going to celebrate the resurrection of Easter Sunday. That's what Christianity is all about, and it is. And it's probably true. You don't need to go to worship on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, but as I said, you miss out a whole lot. One of my favorite shows is MASH. And so I love to watch MASH and all of the reruns of that show that are on TV these days. But one of my favorite shows on MASH is a story of a helicopter pilot who was bringing in a wounded soldier. They were waiting for him to come and wasn't showing up. And it wasn't until the next day after they expected him to be there that finally he got there. And when they asked what the problem was, what the pilot said was, "Well, I have some engine trouble." Okay. And so they tried to get him what he needed to fix it. When they talked, though, to the soldier who was wounded after they had helped him and he was recovering, he said, "Didn't he tell you the whole story?" What happened was, and I don't understand the mechanics of the whole thing, but that he was hit, the helicopter was hit, and it hit in the engine somewhere, so the engine would easily overheat. And so the pilot could fly about 300 feet. And so he would fly 300 feet, and they would land again, let the engine cool off. And while the engine was cooling off, that pilot would walk ahead, is about 300 feet or so, to see where the next landing place could be. And then he'd walk back to the helicopter, turn it on because the engine was cool enough to start, obviously not get very high because he couldn't go very far, fly that 300 feet, and then go back down again. And they did that over and over and over again for that one day. And then obviously during the night they couldn't fly because it was dark, and then the pilot could not see at all where they were going. And so early the next morning started out that story once again, with walking ahead, finding a landing place, going back and turning on the helicopter and flying those 300 feet, and then landing to let the engine cool off. And finally they got to the MASH unit to get help for this wounded soldier. The pilot only said, "I had engine trouble." There's a whole lot more to that story. And when you hear the entire story, it's not just about a pilot who seemed to be taking his time getting this wounded soldier there, but it was about a pilot who went way over what he needed to do to get help for this wounded soldier, and who took his time and took all the time that it took to safely get there. I mean, when you hear the whole story, it's a pretty amazing story, and it changes, I think, how you look at that pilot and how you look at what happened and why he was late. Easter, celebrating Easter without going through Holy Week, is kind of like missing that story. And even though we know the story, there's something about living through that story again. And I want to say even that by not going through worship at Holy Week, you miss the excitement and you miss the power of what Easter is all about. I mean, Easter is, whether you go to church at all before Easter or from one Sunday to the next and miss Holy Week, Easter is a day of joy and celebration, and we proclaim loudly, Christ is risen. We celebrate new life. But Easter has more power when we know that whole story of what Easter is all about. Another story early on in my ministry, actually in my first call, the other pastor that I worked with and I did a tenebrae service where it got darker and darker and darker in the congregation, and it ended on Good Friday with complete darkness and even a drum roll and a boom. That was it, and people walked out. There was one woman who was there who obviously hadn't been to a tenebrae service before. She was very active in the church, but hadn't been to a service like that ended with that drum roll and that drum boom that just kind of sets your heart on fire, and you think, oh my goodness, what is this? She came out after worship and she came to the two of us pastors and she said, "That was awful. That I would wish I hadn't come. Why did you have to do that? I'm leaving now feeling awful." And she actually had tears coming down her face. She said, "I don't like to leave worship feeling awful. What did you do to me? And now you've ruined my weekend." And we were saying to her, "Myrna, wait until Easter. Myrna, just wait and you'll see." But she was so caught up by the horror of Good Friday and that service and what it did to her, how awful she felt, and how badly, in her mind, that service ended in complete darkness with a drum roll. But then on Easter Sunday she came. She came to the first service. She had kids who were in the youth program, and they did that early service, and they began by bringing everything back in. The flowers, the cross, everything on the altar, the lights came on. And after that service, Myrna came out and she said to Dennis and I get it. I get it. Easter was different for her that year. She went through that awful feeling of what Good Friday is all about. And maybe that awful feeling that all of us need to know of Jesus' death. It was horrible. It wasn't just that he died, but when you look at what what happened on Good Friday, I mean, he was condemned wrongly. He was whipped. He had a crown of thorns. There was blood coming down his head from the crown of thorns. He was nailed to a cross. He had to hang up there for hours, really suffocating in order to die. That's how people who were hung died, was from suffocation. Wasn't pretty. It was awful. And for the people at the time, and for you and me, Jesus is the Savior. Jesus is the teacher, the leader, the one that they thought could change everything. And here it ends with Jesus dead on a cross on Good Friday. And finally, his body taken down and put into a tomb, seeming to signal this is the end. Myrna, back in my first call, felt that, this end. It didn't feel good. She didn't like how she felt when she left on Good Friday. But on Easter Sunday, that joy was more than she had experienced before. And as she said, I get it. So I want to encourage you this year, participate on Maundy, Thursday. Come and have communion. Come and be a part of the community that sees the beginning of this journey to the cross. Come and feel the mood change as we strip the altar in the worship place and just leave it with nothing on there, with the sign of the emptiness of where we're going. Come on Good Friday and hear the words and the death of Jesus. End in darkness and walk out without feeling good, but rather feeling the weight of death and crucifixion. And then on Easter Sunday, when we sing, Jesus Christ is risen today, truly it will be a time of joy and celebration, because all of a sudden the story has done a 180. And from that horror of Good Friday, we've got the absolute joy of Easter Sunday. So I hope that you think about that. I hope that you decide to participate both on Maundy, Thursday, and on Good Friday, and make Holy Week truly a holy week, and make Easter a day of joy and a day of celebration and a day of new life, unlike any other. So God bless you this week. God bless you as you continue your Lenten journey, and we will talk to you again next week.